What is going on, everyone? It is your boy Samir Sahai Gosser with his boy,
Ryan Kruger,
and today
and
we're
today
on episode 22 talking about.
we're going to be talking about how to do enablement as it is a key critical component of being a sales engineer. It's one of those things that I think online on LinkedIn is not advertised as a part of the role, and it's not necessarily a topic that we've done a lot of exploration into here on the podcast either. Now, a couple of weeks ago, though, Samir's manager and good friend of the pod, Brian Lewis, actually had a post that is a lot of the inspiration for today. So Brian's post said, a pre-sales director called out my colleague Samir in front of his entire team. It was awesome. Samir has been onboarding a new home run pre-sales customer with 120 sales engineers and SE managers around the world. And so, one, Samir, kudos to you. Round of applause. Amazing feedback to have an SE director provide that kind of feedback when you're enabling SEs. Now, for most sales engineers, you're going to be enabling people. They're not actually going to be SEs or like kind of that hybrid technical business folk that are going to be maybe a little bit more apt to do a lot of the enablement and really dive headfirst into the product. So we can explore some of those topics today too around like how do you enable people that maybe don't want to be enabled? But in your case, Samir, I think this is even like a little bit of a harder task. You're doing SE enablement and SE demos in front of SE teams. So to have that kind of feedback, I think is just, again, round of applause to you. Amazing, amazing feedback. And obviously, we want to shout out our own here on the podcast.
Thanks. Yeah, I get that question a lot of, is it hard to demo to other SEs, or is it hard that your customers or your audience is SEs? And at times, I think it's yes and no. The beauty in it is because we all do the same job, I can go and lean on, oh, I forgot to pray to the demo gods, or like the classic things of, oh, I'm just coming off back to back, and everyone can understand that. So you can lean into that. But then on the flip side, it's like I need a button, like make sure I'm always doing well. I'm not running around with my mouse on my screen, or I'm not doing the rambling. I'm like really conscious about my filler words, really conscious about my pace. And so I have a little bit of leeway, but although at the same time, I know that whether they're doing it consciously or not, they are watching how I demo, watching if I am saying this is SE best practices, am I actually practicing them?
Do you ever get feedback when you're meeting with these SEs of like maybe somebody sends you a LinkedIn message afterwards or an email and says, "Hey Samir, I actually noticed your filler word was this today," or like has anyone given you feedback on your demo style?
No one's actually given me like constructive feedback. People will often do the opposite and give like praise, or they'll ask like, "Oh, that was like a cool annotation tool that you were using. Like, what was that?" Or, "Oh, those are some cool lights. Like, what are they?" It's always positive feedback. But if you are ever on a demo with me, I give you permission to send me feedback after the demo. Like, let me know, hey, that was a weird way you did that XYZ thing, or I noticed that you made a new filler word today, and your latest one is whatever it is. Please tell me. I'm all for it.
Mhm. It's actually one thing I miss about, like having the opportunity to work together was every time you and I were on calls together, I knew there was open and honest feedback coming immediately as it wrapped up, right? Call wrapped up 2 minutes later, Slack message comes up, here's some notes. Filler word, you did this, you said this, and it's like I think some people are afraid of getting feedback like that. I'm also on the boat of like I'm looking to improve. If there
Mm-hmm.
are ways for me to improve, let me know. I'm not going to like take offense to your feedback, right? Like my job is to take the feedback you give me, analyze it and say, are these areas that I can get better at? Do I find that this is fair feedback? If it's not fair feedback, maybe I want to like ask you some questions like, hey, why do you think this? Right. And we can have that kind of conversation. And then again, like I will implement things that make sense. But if I do have a filler word, obviously I want to be thinking about that. Sometimes like those filler words become this thing that you just don't know that you're doing at all. until eventually you've either said it enough where you're like, man, I've said that word a lot today, or somebody explicitly calls it out and says, hey, Ryan, I noticed like you're saying this word a lot. Maybe we can, kind of like tamper back on it. But from like an SE enablement standpoint, I think this is an interesting topic because I find that in my role, I do a lot of this too, where we're meeting with customers and we're working to get them enabled on our product. And you're doing that sort of like end user training or what a traditional customer success individual may be doing. But a lot of that still falls into the lap of the SE because part of being an SE is making sure that you do have successful customers. So can you walk us through like you have 120 SEs that you are working on getting enabled? How do you do that? Do you break it up? Can you walk us through what is your approach here?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing with this particular customer, they were worldwide. So I ran 6 enablement sessions across the globe because I think we did 2 or 3 just for North America, and then one for EMEA, one for APAC, and one kind of in the middle of EMEA APAC time zone. So one is when you are working with such large clients, expect that you are running the same. Like I was running the same content 6 times. Uh, so by like the fourth or fifth one, like I had it buttoned up because I was just like, okay, I know where the questions are coming. I know like, okay, this was a weird click last time, and this was a kind of a weird way of approaching it. So I got to fix that. And then just knowing that when you're doing an enablement session, it's different than when you are demoing. And when new SEs come into demoing, they are almost running a training session. You click here to do this, you click there to do that. This is how I set up my new user profile. And we always say, like, don't do that in demos. But this is actually the spot where you do it. This is where you take your time and be like, all right, this is how you log in. Everyone should have your user created. Go to the screen. We've enabled SSO. Click the SSO button. In the chat, let me know if you were successful. So I use the chat feature a lot, especially on the larger groups where you have 40 or 50 people who are on the call and it's just you. At times I was the only one on camera, but I made sure I stayed on camera because I am running the session. Uh, they're going to see me. I'm coming with energy. I have my coffee filled. Like I've already probably half a cup, 1 cup down. Something fun I did for this session actually was I brought a baseball bat because we're home run. And to open the session, I was like, hey, everyone, I'm Sneer Sahai Kosser. I'm a senior solutions consultant here at Home Run. And today we're going to learn how to hit homers and have my baseball bat and, do a little something fun like training sessions are historically boring, and so their bar's kind of low to have some kind of fun and engagement. So open it up with something fun, and then what I like doing is asking a question that is unrelated to the training at all, just to get people engaged. One, it's like, hey, I'm setting the expectation that large group today, we're going to be leveraging the chat a lot. So first question I ask, hey, where are you calling in from? And for this particular time, are you an ocean person or a mountain person? Very easy to, one or the other. People are like, oh, calling in from North Carolina, mountain person, calling in from Lisbon, ocean person. And then you just see people start filling in the chat. And then I think this is the key part. You read their name and say what they answer. Oh, Ryan, no, not awesome. Nice to see. I see like you're calling from Orlando. You're an ocean person. Oh, Brian, oh, you're calling in from here. Oh, you know, Shivam, you're calling in from here, and you're this type of person. And then acknowledge the people who are engaging in the chat, and that I think, from my experience, improves the engagement. And so throughout my whole training, hey, once you're able to log in, can you throw a thumbs up in the chat? Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Alex, thank you, David. As soon as those thumbs ups are coming up, calling it out, calling their name. So you're almost like priming them that you're watching them. And like sometimes I would sit there for 30 seconds waiting for people to do stuff in the chat and just silence. And like I think that with training, especially online training, continuing that engagement, because we had 2 hours, these are 2 hour trainings. So this is not like a short amount of time. Like you have to keep people engaged. So the first thing was figuring out what's my flow. We've done many home run trainings before, so that wasn't too hard. But to your point, as the pre-sales person, I knew why they bought home run, and so I knew where exactly in the product to focus on, and that gives us an edge when we're doing training. is because, okay, leadership got us because of these reasons. So we are focusing on these specific parts of the platform first. And hey, top three things you're going to be doing in home run, boom, right there, right in the front. If there's nothing you take else away from this training, here are the three things that I want you to take away. Um, and I really worked with our champions and the buyers of home run to build out this training. So we made it
Mm-hmm.
custom to what they cared about. I was like, hey, we put this all together. This is what we normally do because you guys cared about 1, 2, and 3. I have put them at the top and had them give me their buy-in. And that was huge because they knew the order of the trainings. And then the management jumped in at certain times to double down and hammer home. Hey, this is really important because we used to do it this way in Salesforce. We're getting rid of that. And now we're going to be doing it this way in home run. So there's alignment with the leadership team. There's coming prepared with all your content. And then there's just encouraging engagement, which is the hardest thing to do. And I always take a lot of uh, inspiration from streamers who will say, "Hey, chat, like blah 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 blah." I haven't done that in B2B trainings because it's a little too casual. But sometimes in the back of my mind is like, okay, how do streamers keep thinking about people like engage and they leverage the chat, and we should be doing that too.
It's funny that you say that. It was like one of the first things I was thinking about. Is like I'm reading the chat and I'm trying to engage. Is like I was like, oh wow, you're doing the work of what a streamer typically will do. Maybe like there's any streamers out there looking at breaking the sales engineering, reach out to us on LinkedIn. I think that could be like an interesting. I wonder if that could be like either an interesting pod or just like interesting topic to kind of explore, of like maybe how to enable like a streamer to become a sales engineer. Like be interesting for us to explore. But I think it's an awesome way to get engagement. I will say, like, for any larger demonstrations that I do, I'm always leveraging the chat as well. Now, I think you've brought up some good points about like the engagement piece that I'll definitely be incorporating myself on just like, hey, like, thanks so much, Matt. Thanks so much, Eric. Like, I think that's a very cool approach to make everyone on the call feel like very seen and heard. And so, something that I know I can be doing better at myself. But I do find for like larger demonstrations, I actually will peel back on sort of um, the engaging demo. And what I'll be really focused on is like doing the content and then leveraging the chat for questions. If I know it's a really, really big audience, I'll probably actually loop in my manager or another SE resource and just say, hey, for today's call, we have 100 people on. What I would really like is that I'm going to be focused on the demonstration. There's going to be questions in the chat that I'm going to be encouraging. If you could just be responding to those, and then if there's any of those questions that we want to address on the actual demo, let me know by either just coming off a mute and telling me, hey, Ryan, we have a question here. I think it'd be great to address this one. I find that that's a way more effective way for those larger combos because what can happen is if you're in a call with 50 people, 100 people, all it's going to take is one person that could completely derail that entire presentation. And they might have zero context into who you are, what your company is and does, and they could just totally sidetrack everything. So, usually, even as we get to like 15, 20 people, that's when I start to say, for today, we're going to be answering all questions in chat. Now, for 15 or 20 people, I'm not going to loop in another resource to man the chat. I'll man the chat myself. But for those larger ones, I like to, really have like an additional resource on there. I think you brought up another interesting thing about enablement, and I want to explore this a little bit further because I would say it's one thing for me that I wouldn't necessarily say is frustrating, but when you're doing enablement, it is more straightforward. You're doing the same thing over again. So when you do enablement session one with one group and you do enablement session two with another group, you're pretty much doing the exact same call twice. So sometimes like that can get a little bit repetitive. So as an SE, be aware that like things can get repetitive. Try to find ways to like spruce it up. Maybe ask the question, are you mountain people versus ocean people, just to get like a different kind of like liveliness within the chat and the group that you're with. So like you are going to have to do some repetitive work, but you said something interesting that I want to double click into, which is you met with your champions to identify the sort of tailored training that needed to be there. Can you walk us through those conversations with your champion?
Yeah. When So throughout the pre-sales process, if we've done our job, should know exactly why they bought our product. And those people who bought the product and who were the ones who influenced the deal from the buyer side, it's going to be your champion, most likely. And if it's not your champion and someone else, that's the person you want to include in this. And so now that I know that you wanted this for this particular business objective, and I know how this part of my product solves that business objective. And so coming to them saying, hey, when we were doing the buying cycle, you guys really cared about 1, 2, and 3. We want to hammer that home to your team. This is how we've done it before with other clients who we onboarded. And this is how I'm sprucing up the training in order to focus in on 1, 2, and 3 and call out that 1, 2, and 3 is exactly why you bought our product and make it explicitly known. Even better, if you're comfortable with it, when you go and introduce us, you say we brought the product because of 1, 2, and 3. And you tell them that, hey, remember when we were doing this and it was super annoying and nobody was doing it and we hated it? Yeah, we don't have to do that anymore because we are bringing in a home run. And, our champion literally did that. He opened the call and he was like, you guys remember when we have to do A, B, and C? Yeah, forget all about that. That's all gone. We don't need it anymore because home run is going to make this way easier. And we even got feedback later that week that we are hearing people who we did training with on Monday and Tuesday were telling the people who were getting the training later in the week that, hey, like this is awesome. Like you're going to love it so much. And they were sharing that excitement. So when you can get your champion to go and present why they bought the product to their team, now all of a sudden you've got like instant buy-in, and then people are just more open to doing that. So I think that was a big thing where I was really lucky that our champions were so engaged, so like just partners with me. I wasn't doing this by myself. It was both of us were working back and forth. We were working like countless hours. Like this training was not just on me. They brought a lot of information. They gave me a lot of context. They're like, hey, for this group, they're going to be a little bit more quiet and timid. But for this group, they're going to ask a lot of questions. Like, just be prepared because they are the ones that like to tinker and will be the ones who like break things, and in a good way. And you're like, okay, cool. I can change my approach, change my candor a little bit with those, and just be more prepared. So working the champion with the champion, getting them to introduce you and explain the problem that they saw home run solving, and you can't you can't get anything better than that.
Very cool. So yeah, I mean, like I think this is an important call out here of like, you have your sort of tailored demonstration, and then you have your sort of like base enablement. But what you said is like, hey, while I had base enablement, I knew from previous conversations and how we won the deal that I could work with my champion instead of going into those calls with base enablement. I went with base enablement that now has become tailored to them, right? So I'm going to start off with like my traditional sort of like start and end flow for enablement. But instead of just like going through each and every single section or section of the enablement, I know that this section is really important. This section is really important. This section is. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on each of these and make sure that there are users who are experiencing this pain, which I know they experience this pain through the buyer and through our champion. That's where I want to actually focus my time on. So that way, when you get into that section and you say, hey, we can solve for this, there's going to be a lot of engagement on the other side because you're going to say, wow, wait a second. This is the thing that I hate doing or the thing that I find annoying. This is now a big value add to me. And I do think that's a good way to build excitement. Is like you said, now you had people from group one telling group four or group five, like, hey, get excited. This is going to be amazing. You're going to really enjoy this. Our lives are getting better. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and one thing I'll call out here is even though you've closed the deal and we're doing enablement now, I was still selling, but I was selling something slightly different. I was selling usage, right? Because the worst thing you could do and what causes churn is you have this amazing pre-sales process. You guys get the business, you get the closed contract signed. Yes, closed one. But now all of a sudden, nobody's using the product within the customer base. And that's going to lead to churn. And that's almost worse than a closed loss, to be honest. Like if we close the deal and then the customer churned because there wasn't enough engagement or they weren't enabled properly, like that's an avoidable situation. And in order to get people to leverage and use the product, you have to sell them on the value. So just because you're doing enablement doesn't mean you're done selling. You're just selling a different approach. You're selling slightly differently. You're showing them explicitly how this is actually going to change their day to day. So it entices them to use it day to day, and you can avoid that the worst thing that can happen in SaaS is a churned customer, especially if it's a large customer. It's like, oh my God, there's a chunk of our revenue because we didn't give enough enablement or give enough value for them to continue to buy.
And that sucks too. Like transparently, that sucks. You don't want that as a salesperson. That's not how you want your name and your brand to be. You want your name and your brand to be the guy that sells a product and a tool that solves problems that people love to use. They adopt really well. And that does come a lot from these early enablement sessions. They'll also come from like ad hoc enablement in the future too, right? Like they're not limited to just, hey, we're getting you up and running for the first couple of weeks. All right, in 3 months, when you have a problem, I'm not going to be there, right? Like you are the voice of the customer almost to a certain degree for a very long time until their whole entire team and organization is using the product fully adopted. And we see those kind of usage metrics that we like to from the product that we sell. And I think that just comes through the enablement that happens. And I also think that there'll be a sort of like subgroup that sort of takes place from the enablement sessions, which are like you're going to go through enablement, and let's say there are 10 people on call one, and out of that call, you're probably going to have a couple of individuals that really latch on to the product or really latch on to the training, and they start having additional questions, follow ups, and they'll actually be messaging you one on one. So it's a good opportunity for you to now build additional champions outside of the few champions that you did through the regular pre sales process. At the end of the day, to your point, you're still selling. We are always selling. So while the contract has been signed, there's likely an opportunity for either an upsell in the future for new products or capabilities, but there's also going to be the renewal that takes place either a year later, 2 years, 3 years, whatever the contract was that was signed. So you want to not only have the champions from the pre-sales process, now you need to actually have champions from the user base. By building up the champions in the user base, it makes that renewal time very easy. It also makes upselling new products and capabilities much easier when you have adoption rates in the 80, 90% and people are using the product like crazy and they love it. They're not going to simply just let the business take that tool or
Mm-hmm.
product away. They're going to raise their hand and say, hey, I'm not working without this tool. So I need it. You need to renew and you need to buy this product for me. If you can build champions like that, you're not only helping build a successful business, but you're also building a place now where you, for the next deal you're working on, if somebody says, hey, I'd really like to talk to a customer or an end user, you could say, I have a giant bullpen of people that I could reach out to. I know somebody from this company that's experiencing that pain. I know somebody from this company. And look, I have personal relationships with them. I can just reach out and set up that call for you. You don't always have to rely on your account executive to do those things because we are in the technical sort of like space. So we know the challenge that a new business might face that an old business has faced to say, I know a champion over there. Let me reach out to my contact. We can set up a reference call. I know it's going to go great. So you don't always have to wait for your account executive or your rep to go chase down those sort of reference calls, especially when you've done a lot of champion building now,
Mm-hmm.
not only from the pre-sale side, but also the post-sale enablement side, looking towards upsells and also renewals.
Yeah, and something on that front, one, make sure that you just keep your AE in the loop. That I think that's obvious, but just gonna
Yeah, don't go
explicitly
off the
say it.
rails and like schedule a reference call without talking to your AE. Something that I encourage is like literally talk to your AE every day. If you're not talking to your AE every day, like you're not strategizing, you're not like building a relationship so strong with them. I mean, there are times where I am on calls with my reps that I support And like I can think about what they're thinking about. I already know. Hey, like they'll say, "Hey Ryan, what about can you tee this up way ahead of you? I'm already pulled up. I'm look, man, we were both there." Oh, that's the sort of synchronization that if you get into, I think people really latch on to that piece. Like if you two are so in sync, I think buyers see that and they say, "Wow, these people really work together often. They do this often." And I think it does just create a better, more comfortable buying environment versus the two AESE that just aren't on the same page, that are tripping over each other or like stumbling or wanting to show different things or features. Like I think in that case they say, I don't know, like I'm not super comfortable with like the two people that are selling to me because they're not even on the same page themselves.
Yeah, having that chemistry is just a game changer for sure. And yeah, having those relationships where last week we talked about the strategic partner. Part of that strategic partner is, hey, AE, I have this relationship with this customer and this person. They're very similar to our prospect who we're talking to right now. When the prospect asks, can we have a reference call with someone? Maybe we should go with them and I can reach out. Boom. You heard a problem, bring a solution to the table. AE is most likely to be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, hell yeah, let's do it. Or they'll be like, oh, actually, I was thinking about this person. Like, what do you think? This one versus this one. You're like, oh, then now we can have a conversation about it. And so, one thing though that I want to touch on with enablement, because it's something that took me some time to just get okay with, is like having patience. Um, especially on the call, especially when you're working with like 30, 40, 50 people on the call. I think I said the same thing at least 4 times for different people because someone's over here on Slack, responding to emails, and I'm showing how to do a particular thing, and then they're like, "Oh, hey, like, how do you do that thing?" It's like in my mind, I was like, "I just showed you that," but in
Hey, can you
reality,
repeat that?
yeah, in reality, it's like, "Oh yeah, no problem." Like, let's go back. We go to the top right, click this button. You're gonna see this, or put in some of this information, and then it'll pop up.
Wait a second, wait a second, wait. How did you do that again? I'm not, you know, you're going to get a lot of that. You're going
You're
to get
gonna
a
get
lot
a
of
lot of that,
questions like that.
and you just have to remind yourself that one, for me, I would say this is the first time they're seeing this ever in their life. Like some of these people were not involved in the buying process. So even before I got into training, gave a little history, who we are, why we're here, what problem do we solve. So we did the upfront of what does home run do, and then jumping into it. And it's a new UI. Anytime you interact with a new UI, you're a little bit lost. And so when you have to repeat yourself, it's okay. Like take a breath, take it slow. I think one of the feedback that I got at the end of the training of the from the post that we referenced at the top was the cadence, the speed. Like talk slower, like take your time, use your pauses, let people follow along. Because if you think about it, some people are just on their laptop screen. Some people are, because maybe they're traveling or for whatever reason they have a small screen. Some people have multiple monitors, so they can have you up on one side and they can be following along on the other side. And the people who were watching me on their laptop monitor were watching me do something and then flipping their screen and doing it at the same time. So there's a little bit of a delay. So you have to like take into account all of those different things and know that of the 40 people, everyone's having a different experience. And if someone's asking you a question again, like just answer it. Like, oh yeah, no problem. Let's go back real quick. Boom. And build in places of like purposeful dead time so that people can have a moment to like, okay, either catch up or be like, hey, this doesn't make sense, or hey, I noticed these questions. I think it was really excellent, and I wanted to double down on what you said is having that second person being in monitoring the chat and monitoring the questions. And like for Brian and I, Brian was my second person. He was monitoring it because we both run these trainings where I've supported him, he supported me. We kind of both know what the flow is like. And so he stopped me at specific times, knowing where I was going, because knowing where I am. And he's like, hey, Samir, can we pause here? Like a lot of people are asking about X, Y, and Z. Can we go and double check and like go in and show that one more time. And that's that same thing, the AESE relationship, where we know how we're running, we know when is appropriate time to pause the conversation and interject this question, or hey, I know Samir's about to move on from this section, but someone's asking a question. Let me pause him right now. Hey, Samir, before you move on, can we go and repeat this and this, or can we go and show this part one more time? So that becomes like huge and crucial. It just shows that you're paying attention, you're on the same page, like you're representing the company really, really well. And when you come out of an enablement session, like with a positive feeling, you're going to be more encouraged to use the product. When you use the product, it's going to be more sticky. When it becomes more sticky, come renewal, come upsell, like it all just makes life easier down the road.
Yeah, and something that I will say too is like you want to make sure that everybody is a happy person on the call. Like it doesn't take much for you to just bring good positive energy to those enablement calls. Like it all you have to do is show up, smile, make it a welcoming environment. Don't make it like a all right, so today we're going to get you enabled on this, right? Like you can do that. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. But like just bring a little bit of positive energy. And I think the other people on the other side really respond to that and give them time. They ask you the same question three times over. Don't go, oh, right? Don't give that body language response. We talk about that from the demo side. Don't do it on the enablement side either. They'll feel that. And then they won't feel comfortable asking questions to help them get enabled in the way that they need, right? They ask the same question three times, 10 times over. Hey, let's jump back into that. Clearly, what I'm saying isn't, let's make sure to really dive into this. How can I help you? How can I help all of you understand this a little bit better? Let's actually take some time. Let's actually go through this and let's focus on it. So the first thing we're going to do is this. Is everyone with me? Are we at the same pace? Okay. All right. Now let's go to step two. Let's do this. All right. Are we all good? Everyone give me thumbs up in the chats. All right. Great. I'm seeing thumbs up. Let's move on to step three. Now you can break it up even further and just make sure that they're working with you to get enabled onto the actual product itself. So that's just something that you can do, right? Like go slow, bring positive energy. And then the last thing I'm going to tell you that I find to be like a great thing to do for enablement, if there are any of those areas that didn't resonate on the call, or maybe at the end of it, they're like, hey, we really need to dive into an additional session and you don't have time on your calendar for an additional session, it's possible. One, try to make the time for it if possible. If you can't, send over a short video of you doing it. Loom is a great tool. You can create short videos on Zoom or whatever sort of recording tool that you use and send that over to them. Now they can actually use that to reference without you on a live call. So that thing that maybe was a little bit hard for them to latch onto, send them a 3 to 5 minute long video on how to do it. Do not, do not send them a 20 or 30 minute long video. This is like one of my biggest pet peeves. I actually think even 3 to 5 minutes is honestly possibly too long. I think sometimes there are certain topics that kind of require a little bit longer of a video. There's no way to really get around that. But you should actually be looking to send them videos between like 60 to 120 seconds. Only the 3 to 5 minutes for those like more complex things that really require some. Otherwise, they're just not going to watch it anyways. So like try to get them quick enablement. Hey, here's how you do this. Boom, 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 boom. 60-second video. They can watch that whenever. They can reference it whenever. That will be helpful to them.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, especially if there is questions that are like the same questions are coming up for multiple different people. It's like, clearly there is something that I missed when explaining this. Hey, here's a quick 60-second video just to address this. A lot of people were wondering, how do we get a new workspace into the product? It's a very easy thing. It'll take me 60 seconds to record a video. Boom, send it out. And now when that happens, maybe my champion's getting hit up on the side and be like, hey, how do we do XYZ? And my champion now is going to be like, hey, and here's a quick video Samir already sent us over. And now champion's not hitting you up to go and answer the same question twice. You enable the champion to now also be the kind of the superstar for them. And the user is actually getting what they need. So it's a win-win-win all around, especially when you are in that, what we call like the hypercare stage, where it's like, we just launched it. people either get in and use it or won't use it again. And if they are hitting roadblocks, how do we quickly remove those roadblocks and get them, smooth sailing? Otherwise, I think you have maybe like 4 weeks. They're either in it or they're not, and sometimes it's 1 week depending on the person. So if you can hear and listen during the onboarding session and the training of what questions are coming up consistently, and I can get ahead of them, record a video or say send some screenshots, whatever makes the most sense, so that when it comes and they ask the question either to me or the champion, we can quickly respond. Like time is like, I mean, we always say time kills all deals, but like the timing of these things is huge. If I get you back, if you ask a question and you get a response in 1 minute versus 1 hour, the likelihood that you're still doing something 1 hour later is zero. But if I respond to you like a minute later because I already have all the information like already prepped, boom, you're probably already still in the platform or you're still trying to troubleshoot it, and all of a sudden it comes in, and now I'm not like stopping the flow.
I would also say, like, don't be afraid. Like, if you're, like, in your case, you're enabling 120 people, not all 120 people are on one call. We've had to break it up into multiple different calls. Let's say you're on group 4, right? Maybe you have 10 groups that you're actually sitting down with. Maybe by the time you get to group 4, they ask you a question and you realize, wow, for groups 1, 2, and 3, I actually didn't address this piece of functionality. Don't be afraid to reach back out to groups 1, 2, and 3 and say, hey, everybody, I actually realized this would be really helpful for you to know for the session that I was doing today. I wanted to make sure to share that information with you. Here's a quick 60-second video. I think it's easy to just say, like, whatever, they'll figure it out. I'll make sure to include it for now, groups 5 through 10. But now those first 3 groups, they don't have access to that information, and maybe their usage drops because of it. If it's important, make sure that you go back and let everybody
Mm-hmm.
know and have access to that information. So don't forget, don't get so lost into just like the questions that are brought up here in group 4. My answers are only for group 4. I'm not going to do anything different. Like, it's possible that something they bring up in group 4 is so important that now every group needs to have access to it. It's your job to now sort of circle back and actually tap in to those old groups and say, look, I want to make sure that you have access to this information.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's huge, especially because people have different perspectives and will ask different questions, and sometimes questions will spark something that, oh, that's actually a really good point. You guys can do it this way. We should let the rest of the team know because it seems like this is a company wide, process that you're doing. And so, thank you for calling that out. We'll share that with the rest of the team. I love that call out. That's huge.
Yeah. So I have a final question for you, and then we'll kind of like wrap it up for today. What do you think was maybe the 1 or 2 things that you had done as a part of this enablement that responded so well with the director of this company that they wanted to make sure to give you that sort of like outward feedback? What do you think was like the secret sauce to all this that maybe every SC should be thinking about?
I'm gonna say audience management, and when you have large groups, being able to manage that audience and keep them engaged is going to be your hardest thing. Like training is not difficult, right? We know our product inside and out. We should be able to go and walk someone through how to use it. But making sure that the audience is actually understanding is a lot more difficult. So for me personally, I run on an ultra wide, and then I have another monitor that's vertical on my left side. And so that monitor, I had my Slack open, so I was talking to Brian. I had my notes of the steps that I was going through my training, and then on my ultra wide, I had half my screen sharing of all of what's going on from the training perspective, and then the other half was I had the chat and the video screen to see if anyone had the video on, and I had the chat open. So as I am doing stuff in the training, my eyes are here, show something, kind of see is the chat responding, and noticing stuff coming in the chat, not necessarily like explicitly reading it, but noticing things are going on and noticing, oh, yes, people are giving me thumbs up when I'm asking for it. And I think that piece of it was crucial because I was aware of what was going on with my audience as I was going through certain parts of the training. that plus your cadence and like the speed and taking things slow and having specific pauses and like the I think those two things were probably the biggest reason why he called it out, because it was just, hey, he explicitly said, he's like, hey, did you notice how he spoke and was engaging with the chat? Like, use different words, but that was the ethos of it, was just the audience management piece of it, especially when you have a large audience, because that's always where it gets tough.
Well, to think you know, guy, you have a vertical screen. That's insane. You actually have a screen vertical versus horizontal.
Yeah.
That's wild. I have never used a vertical screen. Maybe I'm old school. I don't know, man. That seems bizarre to me, but whatever. You think you know somebody, and then you only find out their deepest, darkest secrets on episode 22. I think like a couple of things I'll say just to wrap it up is like this is a critical component of the job. You want to get comfortable with leading these kinds of enablement sessions. Build new champions. Don't only focus on your old champions. You are part of a new sale now, right? Like you want to be focused on making new users, the sort of like super users that are becoming your champions internally for that organization. Also, take the approach to this sort of like demonstration a little bit slower. Break it down. Also, for the larger groups that you may support, break those groups up too if you can. If you can't and you're on a larger one, loop in another resource to tap into that call with you. So that way they can be answering the chat and helping you out, making sure that if there are areas that need to actually have you sit down and focus a little bit more on, they can call those out to you. It's very, very, very hard to be leading an enablement session, answering some questions, and then also trying to read through a chat and try to do that all live and in real time. You're multitasking to a point that's stretching you so very, very thin that what you're going to be saying is not going to be necessarily matching up to the kind of enablement that you want to give. You be focused on trying to actually read a question and try to think about how to answer it at the same time. Be very, very difficult to do. So loop in additional resources. Any parting thoughts from you, Samir?
Well, as you're saying that, I also explicitly said to the group, oh, give me 1 second, I'm just reviewing the chat. And like that, totally fine. Everyone knows that the people are using the chat. And all of a sudden, you can see me looking and reading the chat, and just saying, hey, I'm reviewing the chat, making sure that I didn't miss any questions. Use that. Like, just explicitly say what you're doing. Oh, hey, I'm reviewing my notes. I want to double check that we're making the right page. Oh, it looks like we're about an hour in. We're going to take a 5 minute break. Put a 5 minute timer on. Was another thing that I did. And you just share your screen and have a timer going and say, we'll be back in 5 minutes.
I like that. I think like from a professionalism standpoint, like the 5 minute timer is really nice versus saying like, hey everyone, it's 10 to the hour. All right, we'll meet back at 5. Like I like the little timer there. So that way everyone knows like, hey, okay, we're on a little bit of a shot clock here. Versus if you do it the other way, what'll happen is like 5 minutes will turn to 7 or 8 minutes
Yeah.
very quickly versus the other way around.
And then when there's like 15 seconds left on the timer, that's when you pop back in and be like, hey, we're about to start here in 10 seconds, and the timer's going down. And you don't need anything. Just literally Google timer, and Google has it in there. Like, so, like, don't have to go anywhere. I just said Google, literally timer on Google, and it pops up, where that little like AI search stuff is. It's just right there. So very low
No need
hanging.
to reinvent the wheel. Yeah,
Yeah.
no need to reinvent the wheel here. Any last thoughts?
Uh, no, I think we covered a lot, and just trainings are fun. You can make them fun. They're historically boring. Make them fun.
A good call. I like that. Well, that should we were talking about it at the beginning today. Like we need to figure out I want to incorporate fun into some level of like today's episode title because I think that's it. Like make enablement sessions fun, right? Like that's if you can do that, the people on the other side will have such a better experience. You're right. Like traditionally they are so boring.
So boring.
So like, can you make them a good, fun experience that people like? I think that's one way to definitely stand out in a world full of boring. Make it fun.
I like that. Alrighty. That's it for this week's episode, and we will all see you guys later.
All right.
Peace.
See you, everyone.